All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ron Wilkerson. Hey guys, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at how I set up my Photoshop. Recently, Photoshop did a new update and I lost a lot of my plugins and I contacted Adobe. I've gone through this before and I think I did a video on this a while back. Basically, what happens is when you open Photoshop, it no longer shows you your accessibility to your plugins, any plugins that you have installed. So let's jump in Photoshop and take a look at it really quick. So if you're reinstalling Photoshop, as I did for some reason, and you need to um, log in, this is the starting screen that you're going to see. I'm going to show you guys how to disable this so that this will not appear every time that you open Photoshop. So let's go ahead and click here. We're going to open Photoshop. Then we're going to go up here to Preferences. We're going to go to General. And right here where you see it says Auto Show the Home Screen, we're going to disable that. And then click OK. So basically what's happened here, if you guys have seen a lot of my previous videos, you know that there's usually a panel here with a lot of actions and the layer panel and things like that that I have set up on my workspace. But after reinstalling and completely uninstalling Photoshop to try and fix the issue that I was experiencing, all of those things were reset. So I'm going to show you guys simply enough how to reinstall everything and get your panels set back up in a very efficient way. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go over to your Windows drop down. And from here, you're going to decide which panels that you use the most. So in my case, it would be Actions. So I'm just going to pull the Action panel out. And as you can see here right now, the only thing that's in the Action panel is the default actions that come with Photoshop. So I'm going to close that because that's just showing up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dock this by just sliding it until you see the little blue line and then releasing it. So now my actions will just be here. Anytime I want them, I'll just be able to click here and then expand this panel and retract it. The other thing that I normally always have associated with, above my actions is my layers. So I'll go down and select layers and I'll drag those out. And then I'm going to drag it here right underneath the actions and just release it and it'll show up there. And then from that point, you can then go in and just adjust it. If you want to split the panel where it's half actions and then half your layers. So to install your layers, your actions, as I showed you before, you can go here to load actions and then click on load actions and then find your actions wherever you have them saved. And then you're able to go there and let's see. This is the folder that I have all of my different actions in. But there's a much quicker way to do this if you want to do it without loading each individual one. Well, you're still going to have to load them individually, but if you go over to your Finder, then you can go in and look at whichever actions you want to install. So say, for instance, I want to install this frequency separation action. I can just double click on it. As long as Photoshop is open, it's going to load it right into Photoshop. Now, one of the things that I've seen in the past, if you have multiple versions of Photoshop installed in your system or older versions of it, it may, if you don't have one of them open, it's going to default to whichever one is the default and it'll try to install it in that one. So let's go back and let's click here on Essentials. That's going to load that one. And let's go and get our dodge and burn. Let's see, what else do I want for now? This NBP one I'm going to install. And so some of these are basically duplicates of a lot of the same things, because there's like a dodge and burn here. This is a different dodge and burn action that basically does the same thing. So none of my extensions are working either. So I can still install the actions that are related to those extensions. So like for Infinity Color, I can go ahead and install the action that comes with Infinity Color. Then I can go and see, here's one action that I use sometimes for when I'm doing like textures. So I can install that one. Close that down. And I think there may be one more, but there'll be others that I'll probably go through here and install at a later date. And then this one, I believe, is one that I use often. And then the other things that I install will be like brushes. You can do basically the same thing. You could go over to your brushes and you could load them the traditional way by grabbing, going to your, let's go to brushes, Windows, brushes or brush settings. This is your brush settings, but right next to it is going to be your brushes. So you could always go here and then scroll down to where you see import brushes, and then you could import your brushes. But we're just going to do it the easy way. So we're going to open that folder back up, and we're just going to click on the brushes. As you see, they load. And then we go to the next one. And I have more brushes than this. I just have to locate all of them. I have them on multiple drives. I do recommend that you guys consolidate all of your actions, your brushes, and everything like that. And at least put them somewhere that's going to be really easy for you to find them at some point in case something catastrophic happens and you have to do this all over again. So that's our brushes. But I did want to show you guys something else. This is a unique file. This is a CCX file, which is the new version of Actions. And it's already installed here. I could click on it and you guys can see what that looks like. It's from Infinity Retouch. But most actions are going to be in the older file format, which is a .atn for Photoshop. But going forward, more people are going to have to start creating actions and plugins that are under the new format as to what Photoshop works with now. LUTs, not so much. You can still install your LUTs the same old way that you were doing them before, so that's not going to be a problem. So we're just going to close this for now. And then the next thing I would normally do is I would go in here and I would, position these in the order that I would normally use them. So frequency separation will probably be the first one. This MBP one I'll move up because I use that often. And then the rest will just, be scrollable. So the next thing I would do is go over here and hit my button mode. And then I can see, exactly what's set up. And then I can scroll through all my different actions as I need them. And then I can do one-click, run on these. So you don't have to go in and hit play or anything like that. You'll just be able to just click one time on any of these colored actions, and they'll run based on whatever it is they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so the only other thing that I usually do, it depends on what I'm working on, but I do have a tendency, and I know you guys have seen that before, is where I will remove the background, this area here that you see in Photoshop. I don't use that all the time. Sometimes I leave it up just because it's easier for people when they're watching videos, if I'm creating something, content. But most of the time, I remove this application frame. And then what happens there is you can just see right through whatever it is that you're working on. So as for instance, if you had an image open, we're just going to drag something into Photoshop. And open it. So now the image is in Photoshop technically, but you can still see your background. So you could click off easily enough if you wanted to grab something else or whatever it is. But some people, this may be very, very confusing, to see it in this format. So if you don't like that, then just go back to Window and click on Application Frame, and it'll pop right back up, and you'll be right back where you were used to working from here. I usually leave my tools over here, but I have a tendency sometimes to move them around, and I can just undock them, and then you can just bring them over to where you see the blue light, and then you can lock that in if you want more space on one side of the screen or another. I'm currently editing a lot of my photos and stuff on this MacBook M1, and it's a 13-inch. Waiting on the 16-inch to come out later in the year, maybe early next year. I'll decide at that point if I'm going to upgrade to something like that. But usually I would just use external monitors, and everything works pretty well there. But since we don't have the panels anymore, or the normal extensions that would normally be here in Photoshop. So if you would go here and click on Window, you would normally have seen another drop down here that says Extensions. And that's where all of the panels, like for Retouch Pro or Beautify or any of those other panels that you've installed, would normally be accessible from here. But since this latest update, that's no longer accessible. And I've already tried reinstalling a much older version of Photoshop, and it doesn't seem to work anymore. And right now I'm running 22.5.0 as this latest version of Adobe Photoshop, which is fine. I installed those panels for the most part to play with them. Most of the time, for most of my workflow, I'm using actions, I'm using layers, I'm using things like that. So most of those things don't really affect my workflow. But one of the things that does affect my workflow to some degree is not being able to access plugins that I have here. So what I'm having to do is to round trip in a different way. So I can edit the photo in Photoshop, then export it, and then I'd have to go in and open that same photo in another program. So say for instance, I was going to be using a NICS collection because it's not showing up in Photoshop. I would have to open these independent and then bring that image in to do the final edit, and then save the image or something like that. It's not a big deal, but it can be a pain in the butt, if you're not used to working that way. I'm pretty sure this is going to be something that's going to be fixed going forward, especially for the plugins, because a lot of people have spent a ton of money for these plugins, and they use them for the most part on a daily basis, if they're content creators. Now, something that I did discover here recently, I'm going to close this image, and I'm going to show you guys. I don't want to save that. I'm going to close Photoshop. I don't know how much this is related to what's going on with this version of Photoshop, but I noticed when I was playing around with it, if you go into Photoshop, into your Photoshop file, and you right click on it and go to Info, you have the option to open with Rosetta. Well, this new version of Photoshop is designed for the M1 Mac, so we no longer have to open this in Rosetta. Remember, I am also running a beta version of the Mac OS. Yeah, silly me. But anyway, so if I click on Open with Rosetta, and some of my other applications are also opening through Rosetta, I'll show you what will happen is Photoshop will try to open. And of course, probably now it will actually open. But 90% of the time, what it'll do is it'll just get stuck, and it will never open. You'll see the little spinning ball. It'll just start spinning. And even if I go down and look at Photoshop, I can click on it, and I can see that the force quit option is available to me. So I already know, from previous experience, this is not going to open, so I'm just going to force it to quit. Then I could go back here, get Info, and turn off Open with Rosetta. And then I click on it, open it, and it's almost instantaneous. So yes, this is a full version for the M1 Max, and it works really well. It's very fast. I just know that there's a few bugs they need to work out. Adobe needs to work out, and this is a more recent update. This update came out just a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, but for my workflow, all of the things that I do are already here. If I need to open my libraries, they're here. I'll do another video and I'll show you guys how I install all of these different effects that I use for overlays and things like that to make it really accessible through your libraries. We'll do that in a future video. But your adjustment panel is here. All of your property panels are here. You can just have all of these, kind of docked off to the side. And if you want to see them in a larger view, just click on the little double arrow, and it'll just expand it out, and you'll be able to see them in a much larger view, depending on how much real estate you have to work with. you know, but you can see, and then you can still kind of draw those in a little bit if you want to, you know, just to give yourself a little bit more room if for some reason you need these panels open. But usually I don't work with them open. The two main ones that I have open most of the time is going to be my layers and my actions. And then that way I do most of my work from there. So I know I have access to my colors and swatches and gradients and all that stuff. You know, I can get to those relatively easy. The adjustment layers, like I said, the libraries are right here. My channels and paths are right here. So I just kind of keep those off to the side until I actually need them, because I can just click on the little icon and it'll just give me access to it. So, but anyway, guys, I wanted to go live and do this really quick video for you guys and, you know, explain to you what's going on with Photoshop. So if you are running Photoshop and you are very dependent on plugins or on extensions, do your best not to upgrade if you can avoid it. You may even want to just go up and just, you know, close your Adobe application so that it does not allow itself to update. But previously, after this recent update with the Mac OS, this beta, I was having a problem with Photoshop opening, which I'd mentioned in a previous video. So I was told by an Adobe representative that probably what I really needed to do was to update Photoshop, and it should rectify the situation. Well, that's what I did, and you know, that's why I'm having to set everything back up. But even with all those you know, hurdles, you know, we are going to keep moving forward. We're going to stay positive, and we're going to make things happen. We're going to get out there every day and create something amazing. All right, guys, I will catch you guys in the next video. I will be live again in 2 days, but I will be creating some content that I will be throwing up here on YouTube as well as Instagram. You can find other content that I post on Facebook. If you have not joined our group on Facebook for learning photography as well as retouching, please do so. And I will catch you guys in the next live. Stay safe, wash your hands, take care of your loved ones, and get out there and create something amazing. Peace. I'm out.